Chargers fans got mad earlier this season because Brandon Staley left Justin Herbert in a game that was essentially over late in the fourth quarter, down 38-10 to the Jaguars, risking his injury for not much upside. Staley clearly didn't learn much because he played a ton of players today in a game that meant nothing. Although it appears at first blush that Williams may have escaped serious injury, this was still an insane, unnecessary risk from Staley, risking the health and potential availability of many of his most important players a week before the playoffs started. This is truly disappointing because Staley has resuscitated the Chargers season with excellent defensive coaching and play calling over the past few weeks, but a mistake like this, risking a tremendous amount of downside with not much upside, does not inspire confidence in his leadership. Post-game, Staley argued that he wanted to continue the momentum of the season. Well, in the locker room after the game, the Chargers' mood was pretty down because they lost potentially one of their best players. He couldn't walk. He was limping to the bus. The Chargers have guys like Eckler, Williams, and Keenan Allen who have been injured throughout the year and are injury risks. And they have guys on the line like Corey Linsley and Trey Pipkins. Pipkins who's still nursing a sprained MCL. These guys could use this time off in a game that means nothing to get closer to 100%, and Staley completely ignored that. NFL players have a battle mentality. They will always want to play if there's a competitive game out there. It's up to the coach to be the adult in the room and say, we are not going to risk the health of our most important players a week before our season is on the line, when nothing at all is on the line this week. Staley also mentioned that when he was coaching with the Bears, there was an instance where they had rested players and they came out flat the next week. To which I would say, if you're a head coach and you're preparing your team for the playoffs and they come out flat, that's on you as a head coach. That's not on the reality that the team didn't play the week prior. The Chargers also made Michael Bandy, who's the fifth receiver on the active roster, a healthy scratch, which means that there's even less flexibility to play backups amongst wide receivers, and the Chargers have some of the most injury-prone wide receivers in the league. This meant that when Williams went out, Keenan Allen basically had to play a ton of snaps deep into the fourth quarter because the team didn't have any other options. Just the fact that that was a possible outcome of Staley's planning really throws the planning itself into question. The second that the Chargers found out their game meant nothing, Bandy should have been active, and either Keenan or Mike Williams should have been inactive, and the other one should have played sparingly, if at all. This is not hindsight either. It's just a reality of understanding there are some players who are more injury prone than others and who automatically would be such a devastating loss because of what they mean to the playbook on offense. And if the argument is, well, football's a violent game, injuries are just bound to happen. Yeah, perhaps that's the point. In a violent game, you can't justify putting important players in the game, risking their injury in a game that has absolutely no standing significance, especially the week before a game that means everything to the season. It just makes no sense. And all this discussion of the Chargers' skill position guys and how injury prone they've been and they currently are obscures maybe the most important question. What if Justin Herbert had gotten injured? Herbert played into the third quarter. What in the world do you tell your team if your generational quarterback gets injured playing in a meaningless game the week before a playoff game? Yeah, sorry you guys busted your asses all season. We have basically no chance of winning with Chase Daniel next week. See you guys in the fall. Enjoy the offseason. And even if we were to play devil's advocate for a second and make the argument the team warmed up with the intention to play, they should at least get to start the game and get a rhythm. Fine, okay. The Chargers didn't find out until kickoff that their game was going to mean nothing, so one really good offensive drive, they scored a touchdown, then you have a plan in place to put most of the backups in, if not all of them. Fine, that's at least reasonably justifiable. Anything beyond that is reckless abandon. And I understand Staley wants to be an aggressive coach, but there is a line where aggressiveness and belief in your players turns into dumb, unnecessary risk. And Staley unfortunately crossed that line yesterday. I hope he gets lucky. I really do. If the most serious injury from yesterday is back spasms for Mike Williams or a stinger for Kenneth Murray Jr., he will have gotten extraordinarily lucky, and that will be great. But again, at a certain point, this lesson is either going to be learned from near misses, or Staley is going to have to learn this lesson from a guy getting really seriously injured and it making the team's chances significantly less the next week in a more important game. And again, Staley has done so much good work this season. It really is too bad. I was very ready to give a wholehearted, full-throated approval and endorsement of his performance as a coach this season, especially in the last 7 or 8 weeks. He has allowed the team to do a lot with not as many great players as they expected when they started the season. Alohi Gilman, all these types of guys, Jasir Taylor, guys who were not expected to make big contributions to the team, have been able to do so. And a lot of that, if not a huge portion of that, is coaching, putting these guys in the right position to succeed. It has been a season of overwhelming success overall for Staley and his defensive coaching staff. So that makes it all the more disheartening to see him put his season and all the accomplishments that he has had this year at risk by maybe hamstringing his team in the game that actually matters, which is next week, not yesterday. Regardless, hopefully we'll get a very positive picture of the Chargers' injury situation later this week, and I'll be back to run over all those different concerns and preview the Jags and Chargers, two teams that are vastly different in their composition and their level of play from when they clash in Week 3. So it's going to be a very interesting game. It very well might come down to quarterback play. We'll be back later this week, so subscribe for that. Would be amazing to see more post-game locker room scenes like this sooner rather than later.
We knew we were going to go down and score. We knew we were going to get that 2-point conversion because of who this guy is on a day-to-day basis. Okay? This season is just getting started. Justin.
No! On you, baby. A lot of words. On you, baby. Can I get a
Great job, defense. Love you guys. Team on 3. 1, 2, 3, 2.